Thank you, David. Our speaker today is John Scalise, President and Chief Executive Officer of JobPoint. He was appointed to that position effective July 15th, 2024. John is a Columbia native, graduating from Hickman High School. He also attended the University of Missouri and obtained his degree in recreation therapy from Central Missouri State University. For over 30 years, John has held a variety of positions within the behavioral health field. Early in his career, he worked at Fulton State Hospital, University Psychiatric Center, and University Behavioral Health. In 2004, he moved to North Carolina, where he focused on crisis stabilization, eventually becoming the Director of Crisis Stabilization for Eastern Carolina Case Management. John was a partner in the creation and development of Bridges of Hope, which provided outpatient behavioral health services that included psychiatrist services, case management, therapy for individuals and groups, intensive in-home services for youth, and crisis response. He also helped develop a transitional housing program for people with severe and persistent mental health challenges. John volunteered for several years in a crisis intervention team program to assist law enforcement in learning about various diagnosis and crisis resolution techniques. In 2012, John became the Crisis Intervention Team Training and Disaster Response Coordinator for 19 counties in eastern North Carolina, helping plan and develop and implement a 40-hour training for police, sheriff's departments, school resource officers, VA military police, and detention center officers. John returned to Columbia in 2015 and began working for JobPoint as an advisor. He was promoted to Rehabilitation Services Manager 6 months later. He was named Employee of the Year in 2016, Administrator of the Year in 2023 by the Missouri Rehabilitation Association, and received the Point of Light Award in 2023 from the Missouri Brain Injury Association. John was promoted to Director of Rehabilitation Services for JobPoint in 2019. He has overseen a tremendous amount of growth in the Rehabilitation Services Department, expanding services including Ticket to Work, Department of Mental Health Waiver Services, the Summer Work Experience, and the STEP program to provide more opportunities for success for residents of Central Missouri. In 2025, John was invited to join the Missouri State Rehabilitation Council. His primary goal is to help people with various disabilities and life challenges obtain and maintain employment. Welcome, John.
Hi.
Yes, welcome, John. Let me interrupt one more time. We have just been joined by Emma Becker of KOMU 8 News. So we've got a full house here. Welcome.
Well, great. I really appreciate people allowing me to share some information about myself and about JobPoint. Thank you for that background. As you shared, I have a long history. My goal is to help as many people as possible. And working in behavioral health services has really been my calling. Like everyone, you start where you're at, and over time you get experiences and you get to learn more and do more. I've been at JobPoint for almost 11 years. I have to admit, when I first moved back to Columbia, I thought, oh, well, I'll take this job for a short minute and figure out what I really want to do. My stepfather, Dr. Carnahan, Charles Carnahan, he was on the board in the 90s. My mom was on the board, Mary Carnahan. She was on the board in the early 2000s. And so I was very familiar with JobPoint. Once I started working here, it really captured my heart. It's one of the true only jobs in social services where you have a real tangible outcome. I mean, when people come to me and say, I need help finding a job, I need help getting in this path, it's measurable. Before that, I did a lot of crisis response for about 10 years. I went into people's homes at 2 or 3 in the morning and kind of helped through psychiatric emergencies and moved into law enforcement. And so measuring success was just a little more challenging. Do we hit the target today? Growing up in Columbia, I'm a big fan of Columbia Public Schools. I'm a product of Columbia Public Schools. I went to Ridgeway Elementary. I was there in 75. And so, Ridgeway was independent guided education. It was pretty cutting edge back in the day. And Dr. Wheeler was our principal. I went to West and went to Hickman, which is the building right behind Job Point. So it's interesting to be a block away from where I graduated. I worked in the community and have helped people in a lot of ways. I've been in the schools and I've been in community outpatient. So I think that's a little about me. In terms of Job Point, we've been here since 1965. We were started by the Cosmopolitan Luncheon Club. Originally, it was some family members with adult youth children in their lives that had disabilities, and they wanted to find a way for them to help get to work. And so we started out as a sheltered workshop, and over time found community needs and solutions and have grown to where we are now. Our roots are helping people with disabilities get the skills needed for employment to help them obtain the job, maintain the job, and most importantly, 6 months, 8 months later, once you're working, you still have somebody you can call and say, I got a new boss, I got a new something, I need a little bit of help. And so that part of it grew. We started to do the trade certification programs. So Job Point is overseen by the Department of Higher Education. We offer 9 trade certification programs in the community. Those are short 12 to 16-week programs. And at the end of those, we help place you in employment. The majority of our trades programs have paid internships, so it's not just classroom time, there's actual hands-on. I think we're most known for our construction. We build 1 or 2 affordable houses in the community. We have one going up at 903 Garth right now. And then we sell those affordable homes to people who are eligible for the purchase. We've built 43 homes in the community. And we're finishing up our one. It should be available for sale in December. We do highway maintenance and repair. Again, getting people ready, getting their certifications so they can work on roads and bridges. Those are very high paying jobs. And if you're willing to travel, you can make, we had somebody making $90,000 a year after a 12-week program. So we do a CDL standalone training program. It used to be part of our highway maintenance and repair, and it still is, that you get your CDL license as part of that. But there's a need for CDL drivers, and we have a simulator. So we went through the process, and now we are authorized, accredited to do standalone CDL training. We have a warehouse training program. We have great warehouses and factories in Columbia. A lot of those jobs are starting at $23, $26 an hour. There's more work than there are people. We have forklifts, and so they get forklift certifications. Again, all of these programs lead to people helping get the jobs. We have a solar panel installation program. We have CNA courses that we offer in the evenings, 2 nights a week. Actually, I taught CPR last night for them. Really good group. We have heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. That's an evening class as well. We recently got approved by the Department of Higher Education to start our hair braiding program. And that is a really pretty growing industry. We have a lot of construction heavy jobs, and that was brought up as something of interest. And so we pursued it. We're working with a local shop, and so a lot of that classroom stuff is there. We also offer an office technology program to help people learn the basics of computer, working front desks, and help place them in office jobs. They can specialize in legal and medical and some other areas. Most of our trade programs have a rolling start. So when the mood hits you and all the stars align and you are ready for that education and that opportunity, you don't have to wait very long. Usually within a couple weeks, you can get in there. We do a TABE test, a basic aptitude test, to make sure that all the students in the trades programs will be able to handle the education. But for the most part, an 8th or 9th grade reading and math level will get you eligible to be successful in those classes. We partner with MACC. We let them use our building in the evenings to do adult education courses. And if somebody scores low on their TABE test, then we can encourage them to come in the evening and take part of that and then get their grades up. The math on construction and the math with HVAC, those can sometimes be a factor. And then the other part, within the rehab services, we just got accredited from CARF to provide specialized programs for people with autism spectrum disorder to help them get employment. It's a little bit more intensive, a little bit more assistance. We provide services in Booneville, Hallsville, Centralia, Fayette, Moberly, Columbia. We do the Ticket to Work program. We're part of the federal government's employment network. And if somebody has SSI and or SSDI, we can help do the math. So it's great to get a job, but if now all of a sudden you have a new problem and no one to ask, it makes it difficult. So we're the only employment network in a 100-mile radius of Columbia that does face-to-face meetings. So anybody working with SSI and or SSDI, we can help do the math and explain things. Most importantly, when they get a scary letter from the government and they feel like they should quit their job, I really wish they would just call us. 5 or 10 minutes, I promise we can make them feel a lot more comfortable, or at least give them the facts. Within our rehab services, we do a summer work program, which is a partnership with vocational rehabilitation, Job Point, and the public schools. We take students in their last year before their senior year. We have 7 students working at different sites. We have a staff person there helping them learn the job. They work 6 weeks, 20 hours a week. And at the end of it, we have evaluations and information. And then going into their senior year, they have a work experience. We have great relationships with Columbia Public Schools, sharing that information. So when they're in their senior year and they're planning kind of their career path, that information's available. We do our summer work. We did it at Shelter Insurance, Level Up. We did it at YMCA in Moberly and CNR Market in Booneville. We've been doing that for about 6 years now. The other neat thing that we do, and again, I think we have a great long-standing 30 years partners in education with CPS. They have a very creative program called the STEP program, and they select students who have various different disabilities, and they're really focusing more on a career track on that last year. The beginning of the program is they're in the classroom with their teachers. They're going over all of the resume building and applications. They take bus tours. They do interviews. And inevitably, they end up getting interviews with one of 7 different companies around the classroom. And then they begin working in those areas. Job Point provides one-on-one job coaching for those students who are employed. Our job coaches are with them on site from the beginning to the end until they don't need us. The goal of the program is for those students to gain employment and to become independent employment. And oftentimes by the beginning of the second semester, they're very independent. Most of those students get connected. Most of the students in public schools, about the middle of their senior year, if they have a disability, will get connected to vocational rehabilitation. And oftentimes they may pick JobPoint as the provider to help them find a job and keep a job in the future. There's 5 other companies that are very similar to JobPoint in terms of community rehabilitation providers. Um, Over the years with the STEP program, there were several other companies very engaged with it. We had one year we were the only provider. Um, this year there are 3 other providers in there as well. So we have 7 students. It's nice to have a group of people. And by the end of it, they're familiar with it because once they get out of high school, vocational rehabilitation is a great gift for somebody with a disability because it can be used every year from then on. So it's a really nice partnership. It's a great way that CPS hands off the students. Um, the last part about JobPoint, and again, JobPoint is, well, what do you know and who went there and which program? But the last big program is the Youth Build program. And that is something that we've been doing since the year 2000. Well, right around 22 years, I think, is what we've been doing. Anyway, we started it. It is a federal program. It is part of the Department of Labor. Within the Department of Labor, there is an agency called Youth Build. And Youth Build and AmeriCorps provide funding for the program that we've been providing for 20 plus years. Those students traditionally have always dropped out of school, been disengaged from school, been disconnected from school, and then came to the Youth Build program. We provide the high school equivalency, and our program's more than just the education piece because we link the workforce piece in there. These students traditionally haven't done well in a sitting environment, and so we work on getting the basics for the education piece. And then the other part of the day, we're working on different career paths. We have a number of trades programs that are authorized for them to select from. So you can pick anything you want, but the list of things you can pick are construction and highway maintenance. And now we've got some other options for folks. Excuse me. So anyway, we've been doing the Youth Build program for a long time. We serve on average about 40 students a year through our building. Somewhere over time, we started talking to Columbia Public Schools. I think we came up with a really creative, inventive idea to try to avoid that they have to be totally disconnected to get to us. And kind of instead of going through this ditch of dropout zone and finding their way to us, it seems like we've created this bridge. And it allows Columbia Public Schools through a contract to send students to us. And then we provide some of the education pieces of it through the Mo options and help them get there. Then they end up graduating from their home school with their high school diploma. And so it's really an amazing program. In 22, we piloted the program. We served 54 students between 2022 and 2023. I believe it was very successful. We had 52% of the students graduate out of that group, which is 28 of them. And then about a year or two later, we had a couple more graduate. So depending on how you do the math, it was maybe 57% and 31. But a good number of the students that we served, when you do your ISET and those tests there with GED, the old school GED is you had to pass everything or take it again. And now it's the ISET and it's 5 tests. So you study for math, and when you're done with math, you study for science. And when you're done with that, you study for the next one. So even if people don't complete all 5 of those tests, when they leave here, if they've left with 3 tests done, then they still only have 2. So somewhere down the line. So anyway, we did the pilot program. We got into discussions about kind of how that program would be reimbursed. The funds that we used for that time weren't going to be available for the future. I feel like we came up with a good solution. So in 2024, we finalized it and we kind of established the program. We received one referral in 2024, and this year we've gotten 3 referrals. So we're pretty excited about that opportunity. We've taken that idea to the county schools as well. And so we have similar deals with Southern Boone and Hallsville. We're in discussion with them for others. So I think the more bridges that we can build to connect people and to keep them from getting lost in the middle, the better. Um, so everything was moving fine and dandy. And then this year, the federal government decided to reallocate their funds, and the program, the youth build program that we've been operating over 22 years, will no longer be funded. Our grant will end in the year 2028. And so we love what we do. We love helping the youth. It's really become a part of Job Point. And so we said, how can we continue to do this in our community? We are open to all ideas. We have certainly explored multiple ideas, and we have other ideas we're have as a backup. Um, but this does seem to be the best idea that we can come up with. A public charter school would allow us to serve, because presently we're serving 40 to 50 students a year. The federal grant only allows us to serve 40. With the partnerships and the relationships and the extra students, we can kind of get a little outside of that with that program. So the charter school would allow, public charter school would allow us to serve more students. And I think it would give students an option. Um, I believe that Columbia Public Schools does a great job. I think they have received awards. I've been on committees with folks. I have lots and lots of respect for them. I've seen them in action. Their success rate's outstanding. But we're focused on the few people who the programs that we have haven't worked for them. Again, for 20 plus years, we've been serving on average maybe 40 students a year who weren't successful through the system. And the last few years, we've built this bridge so that they don't have to drop out to get to us. But the public charter school, I think, would allow us to continue what we're doing, expand more on that career workforce development piece. Um, that trades preparatory school idea. I'm 54. When I was going through school, it was nothing but college. That was the only way to get there. My brother did not go to college. He is certainly way more financially successful than me in life. But I don't discourage college in any way, shape, or form. I just know that there are a number of youth that option is not available at this time. The youth that we're working with, the youth that we're talking about serving, we have a lot of homeless youth. We have a lot of youth that, you know, are going through very difficult home lives. The ability to stay engaged in that traditional setting just isn't working. We have a lot of youth who really need to get out of school and get in employment, and need to get in a good employment path. It's really easy to get out and get the easiest job or the first job or whatever your friend works at. But when you start to realize, I mean, you could work at a warehouse for $26 an hour with all your benefits. I mean, you don't know that unless your friend knows that. And to get get people aware of these programs. Some of our trades programs are independent guided. So we have a student who went through our 12-week program, and in 3 weeks has completed 90% of the training and is now just working on the CDL. So at night, they took their computers home. They did their online CPR portion of it, and they did their online OSHAs, and over the weekend. So we have some people that are very eager, and they're rushing to the finish line. We have other people who have a lot of life challenges. We might need to extend it out longer. And so incorporating what we've already been doing with the charter school concept, I think gives us a really good opportunity to help the youth. the big question is, um, if this opportunity does go away, what would be the solution? Because for 22 years, we were needed in the community to help people re-engage with school, get their high school diplomas. And so if this goes away, what are the ideas the community will have to affect 40 or more students a year who are in this area? Um, so anyway, I've talked quite a bit. I believe that, anything that's new, there's going to be either change or opportunity. It depends what you're focused on. The biggest fear of us humans is the unknown. And this has been an idea that's out there. And in Columbia, it's an unknown. In St. Louis and Kansas City, they have lots of charter schools, and some of them are more successful than others. But I think the fact that Job Point's been here for 60 years, we have great relationships in the community. We have a long history of doing what we're doing. It's not brand new to us. I think that is a really good starting spot when Columbia considers its first public charter school. So I would really appreciate any questions. If anybody ever wants me to come talk to them, if you want to set up a one-on-one meeting or come get a tour, any of that stuff, I think the more we share information, the better off we're all going to be. This is my hometown. I'm not moving from here. My daughter lives here. I just want to be a part of making things better. So please, if there's any questions, don't hesitate to ask.
Thank you, John Scalise, for this presentation. Does everyone still hear me? Okay, Dave?
Yes, you sound fine, David.
Okay, good. I want to welcome John Lyman, another another elected official, who I think is or was vice president of the school board here in Columbia. So we have I'm really kind of floored by the attendance we have today. And once again, oh, John says he's now president. Oh, I think he told us that last time he appeared, that was going to happen. So thank you all for coming. And again, apologies for not scheduling this a bit earlier. I really appreciate that you were able to make the time to appear. In spite of our quick scheduling here. Once again, apologies for that. I will start with some fairly obvious questions that have been already put in the chat. One was from Allison Kaiser, who was interested in the relationship with Columbia Public Schools. And you did go into that in some detail, and I think she might be interested in more information about background of coordinating with Columbia Public Schools. Or this question: why do we need a separate charter school in our community that could drain resources from our district schools? Would it not be possible to just expand programs through the Career Center or other areas there? John.
Yeah, I think that is the obvious question that comes up. Again, the population of students that we're working with, I think, have not excelled in those environments. Job Point also brings our programming to Juvenile Justice Center. And so the youth that we're working with, again, there's just a significant amount of life challenges. And the fact that we've been serving 40 students a year through our youth build program shows is a need. We've been here for 22 years doing that, and so that's a consistent need. And I think Columbia Public Schools is doing an amazing job. I am not at all against them in any way, shape, or form. But I do believe that independent education, there is a certain percentage of students that are going to be on the honor list and they're going to do great. And there's a certain percentage of students that are just barely getting through. And it's amazing the number of students that you see in the building. You see their paperwork, it scares you. You meet them in the hallways, it's different. Everybody's wearing a uniform in the building. And so, there's a lot of, bonding in that area. But, when they're in their work environment, sometimes that student that doesn't have a good reputation in a classroom is the leader in a work environment. And if you get some of these students, and they know that later on in the day they're going to get to work and they're looking forward to it, it makes it easier to push through that piece of it, because most of them just are desperate to get into employment, start working, and start making money. I was one of those youth that was very eager to get to work. Luckily, I have a very good mother, and she said, "You're going to school," and she kept me there, and it worked out really well, in my opinion. But yeah, for some of these folks, I think that is why this is a need for us.
A question. Oh, and by the way, I want to remind all our, especially all our media people, to feel free to ask your questions, because we care very much about your help in distributing the right information. From Marie Scala asked if you would care to characterize the demographics of your client population. She suggests maybe age, race, city versus rural, any other way that you have talked about some of them in the justice system already. Other ways you want to characterize the clients that you've served in the past up to now.
Yeah, and we're receiving a Department of Labor grant for 20 plus years, so that requires extensive amount of communication and reporting. We keep data and tracking and records, so more detailed, we can easily access that. We're talking about people who are very economically disadvantaged, and that goes across the spectrum of individuals. We certainly have people who are young with legal history, and we have people who score amazingly high scores on their tests as well, and move towards college on that. In terms of, kind of describing the students, it's hard to, I don't know, maybe rephrase that or ask me some more. Maybe I got lost here.
She was just asking about the usual demographics: age, race,
Yeah, it's 16 to
urban
24
versus.
year olds. We do have folks from the counties that come in. We do have people we pick them up every morning. We take them home every day. We give breakfast and lunch. To do the high set testing, we oftentimes have to drive to Sedalia. They offer the full spectrum of accommodations for testing. It's not the easiest process. They don't always give us more than 24 hours notice that somebody's testing. And so getting transportation, driving back and forth, we drive up to Moberly with students. We'll go anywhere they'll let us test. Douglas has some testing, and they allow us to test there some too. So there's lots of moving folks around. Now that we've got some of the relationships with Hallsville and Ashland, we're driving there to pick students up and take them places. But we all know without transportation, you're not going to be able to get where you want to be. So we also help our students get their driver's license. We have a CDL simulator, so they can sit on the CDL simulator. They can get connected to Coach Matthews, and they leave the building and they'll go off. And by the time they graduate, they've got the high school diploma, they've got a driver's license. Some of them are getting their CDL training while they're here.
Thank you. Let's have I see Herb Tillema found the raise my hand button, and we'll see what his question is.
It sounds to me as if you're counting upon federal implementation of your continuing supporting grant. I wonder what is the basis for your optimism, given that aid to disability employment has been slashed overwhelmingly including most of which was conducted through the Department of Labor and outside grants. My daughter, Ann Tillamook, who many of you know, was a research coordinator for a very large consulting firm. All of the grants, which she oversaw, and others parallel to her, were cut in February and March in the first round of DOGE aggression. The people who are at the consulting firms at the federal level and others exist as the important nucleus because the Department of Labor personnel was very small and not very expert. They're gone. They've moved on to other areas, and they're unlikely ever to be enticed back. Why do you think that your program, unlike so many others across the country in this important employment disability nexus, will continue to be funded till 2028?
Yeah, we certainly have experienced the same thing, and the state of Missouri cut $50 million from their some of their funds for Department of Mental Health, and Voc Rehab is on a wait list, and so the number of referrals and the rate of them is definitely impacted. I am not optimistic at all that the Youth Build grant will get refunded. None of us have any reason to believe that that is going to come back. They did not terminate the Youth Build program in the Department of Labor. They just said, this is your last grant, and there's none that are issued. And so that has put us in the spot of, if those funds aren't available, what other options are available? And we do believe that this is an option that would help out not only the community, but all the youth that we serve. It would give them an option to maybe not get lost in the middle. So does that address your question, or did I?
I think what it sounds like is that you have the 2028 expiration of the current grant, and you're not expecting rescission, taking away of the money that you have. And Herb was thinking that that might be a concern too.
Oh yeah, they certainly could do anything they want, and we wouldn't have any notice. So all of this, if they remove the last grant that we have, we already lost $100,000 through the AmeriCorps grant. So it's not been an easy year. But we do think that we could certainly get through a couple more years of problem solving before we're at the spot where we have no funds to continue this on. The
only point that didn't get touched on was, I think, the central one. You're counting on continuing to get money till 2028.
Right.
Multi-year, multi-million dollar grants were abolished, were cut off halfway through, with no further funding even in this fiscal year.
Yeah. So if our funding for our Youth Build program gets cut off, that's just 25% of Job Point's budget. That would be significant. That would be very difficult to maintain long term. We have a couple of Plan B, C plans, but to do anything like what we're doing long term, there's very limited options.
The questions are coming hot and furious now, so I think I will ask. I will take one out of chat first, and then have Kathy Jensen next. Is it possible to have done a feasibility study before issuing your letter of intent, which, as I understand, was the first part of your application, which was accepted in Jeff City? Have you considered approaching CPS to expand your programs to more grades? And do you think your current numbers at CPS are filled? You've addressed some of those things, but taking the words of her question, do you have further comments about that?
Yeah, I think that the next phase of the full application, that's going to be a lot of work. There's certain timelines, and if you don't hit them, there's no chance in all that you'll even get there. So this next phase of it and what we release in our full application, I think that'll be way more detailed than the 5 or 6 pages of those other pieces. In terms of Columbia Public Schools, I think Dr. Klein is amazing. I served on a committee with him. He's a really, really intelligent man. He has got, I think, good ideas. We have had a couple meetings face to face, and talked about this. I certainly understand why there's some concerns on his end. And we are continuing to talk about what could we do. We believe that the public charter school is our best option, but we certainly know we have a couple years before we're going to know what the solution is, and we are entertaining every idea.
Yeah, thank you for that answer. I think one thing I can summarize here is that we immediately get into some very high weeds here, and we have people in attendance who are familiar with these weeds. So I ask everybody to be patient and bear with us. We're just beginning this conversation and learning about this process. Kathy, your question.
My question, John, is there an association of Youth Build offering or providing organizations? Because it sounds like there are a number of them across the country. And I'm just wondering if there is an association. And if so, did that association or did your local board contact our congressional representatives, Mark Alford or Bob Onder, about these cuts and see what you could do to advocate for it being added back?
Yeah.
The funding for Youth Build.
So the Youth Build program is all over the country. I think there's 12 Youth Build programs in the state of Missouri. Might be 7. Don't hold me to that, but there's multiple ones, and they're all in the same situation. That funding is changing. In terms of reaching out to legislators, I have reached out to everyone I can. I believe I've had relatively good response because I have had response. Some of the elected officials have been very engaged. We met with Congressman Alford's representative just this week, and kind of explained where we're at and really what we could do to try to help save that. I do believe the Youth Build groups in Missouri have kind of formed together to try to advocate for the federal grant to continue. So I think there's a lot of energy still going on that side of things.
Okay, I'm going to move to some questions in chat from people from Columbia Public Schools. The first one from board member April Farrell. She says, you indicate on average that you serve 40 to 50 students in Youth Build per year. This year, CPS has referred 3. Last year, they referred 1. The year before that, 9, and the year before that, 12. Where do those other students come from that make up the 40 who are not referred from CPS?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thanks for clarifying. That's all part of that bridge that we've recently built. And so the folks who did not drop out, the new program that we've come up with to help keep them in school, that's those students. All the ones who come through Youth Build are out of school. They've dropped out. And so those are the ones that we've been serving for the 22 years. I think this new bridge that we built has so much potential. And it's really neat to see what's going on. But those small numbers of referrals refer to that Columbia Builds Youth program that we've designed over the last couple of years with them.
Okay. Now from Kristen Bowen, a very big question. The financial implications for CPS are potentially enormous, impacting all our kids. Can anyone on the call talk about per student dollar amount of state money that will be stripped from public education if this charter school is allowed to go forward? This is probably gets to the key concern of the people like you who are big supporters of Columbia Public Schools.
Yeah, well, I can share parts of that. The charter public school rate is lower than the traditional public school rate. and I'm sure there's lots of good reasons for that. Again, the number of students that we've been serving have not been engaged with public schools. This new bridge that we built with Columbia Builds Youth, and we do have people who are still in the school system. And so these are the folks who we weren't able to reach at the moment that we had them the first time, or in the system that we did have in place. So, what is the cost to the community if somebody drops out and doesn't find a career path? I mean, we all know there's not enough money to do the things that we want to do. But we also know that there's costs associated with things. So how much of the drain will it be on, and how many students who are engaged in school will leave to come to it? That's something over time. I would assume the folks from the public school might have a better idea of the rate they get for the students they have and how that would possibly impact. I'm certainly open to others sharing, but that's my thoughts on it.
Well, I have a question that almost sounds like a follow-up from Suzette Waters, going on what you've just said. She says all of the state money allocated for students that will be enrolled in a charter school will be withheld from CPS. So additionally, the local tax revenue that is calculated for those students would be deducted from the foundation formula from the state to CPS. This is expected to be a multi-million-dollar hit to CPS every year in perpetuity. I don't know if she means multi-million for, 100 students in charter school or just the potential of being a multi-million. But I guess she wants to know if you're aware of these foundation formula funding mechanisms or not.
Yeah. I mean, I certainly agree that it is going to be a change in how those finances work. And I definitely believe that the folks who have been connected to that longer probably know more than me, will certainly get more informed. But again, how much does it cost if we don't do it? How much does it cost to have a student? We're presently talking about 45 students our first year, and I don't know what the number of students is in the Columbia Public Schools, but I would assume it's
Thousands.
thousands.
Yeah.
And so the percentage of the students that may come to us will be very low. Now, 1% of a giant number is still a big number.
Yeah.
But again, we've got 85%, 86% of the students going on to college. That's 16% of them that aren't. If we've got 9% of them that are getting trade certification, that's 91% of them that aren't. So I think there are a percentage of students that the community has to decide, is it worth the money to help them get to where they need to be? Or is it that what we have is working just fine and there's no need to add to it?
Okay, I might have made a mistake and given Suzette credit for that question when it was actually Kristen's, but I'll go with Suzette's follow-up. Your current grants for the Youth Build program total $2.25 million. I don't know if that's annual or the total program. If local taxpayers are expected to replace those funds, when will the community get to see your line item budget? Do you have any idea how that will work?
Well, we're operating on our last grant. It's a $1.7 million grant, and it's good through the year 2028.
Yeah. That's
So
the total for the whole period.
Right.
Okay.
So it just depends how many, and that money is only based on services provided. So
Yeah.
if students don't come in and students don't participate in it, then that money's just there. We draw on it as we provide the service. And so it's not like you're guaranteed to get that. So what was the second part? I'm sorry.
Well, this may be part of the application process as it goes forward. Will there be a line item budget that the community can see how these education funds are spent?
Yeah, that's a great question. I certainly look to get more information to be able to have an accurate answer. I apologize. I don't have an answer for you at the moment on that.
You have described your programs, and it's very complex and multifaceted, and some could be part of charter school. And it sounds like some of them are not part of the charter school proposal. So that's not an unexpected answer. I do feel like I've been in the weeds a lot here, and I'll see if Marie can ask us a question that is not so far in the weeds, but you never know what to expect from Marie.
Well, I don't know. Maybe I'm taking us further into the weeds. But
Yeah.
anyway, I'm having trouble understanding the relationship between the youth build program, which I believe is what covers the 40 or 50 students that you've been describing. And I understand and firmly believe what you articulated about some students just not wanting to be in school or not able to be in school, whether for reasons of their own or family situations or whatever. But I'm having trouble understanding how the charter school is going to address the problem of losing the grant for the youth build and how those two things are related. So if you could just give us a
Yeah.
little more information about that.
So we kind of look at the charter school, the public charter school option as something that allows us to continue to provide the service to the community. Once the youth build funding goes away, then how could we continue to provide the service that we're doing? And so if youth build is gone, then charter school would be in place, and it would allow, I think, for more people to access it than we have now. And I think it would be a nice option for a lot of those folks in the community who would benefit from it. So
So you
Is
would
that it?
envision the charter school as being run the way that you run youth build now? And how is that the same as a school?
it would have a lot of similarities to it. I thought you were asking if they're going to run at the same time, concurrent. But the structure of the charter public school that we're going to be putting out there is based on the youth build model. They have a youth build high school in Illinois, and they have a couple of them in California. So there is a model that's out there that's shown to do well. But, then we certainly will put our pieces in there. Again, we've been part of the Department of Higher Education for quite some time. We get multiple grants. We do tons of different scholarships. We've got lots of ways of finding support. But yeah, that's kind of the model with the charter public school we're talking about.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
More questions. Again, on the defining the finances and the financial situation. One from Peter Schneeberger: what is Job Point's cost per student? And then another from Suzette Waters: can we see the Job Point line item budget? Is it available? I was looking at your website. I don't remember seeing that, but those are two things, again, on financial side, if you have any.
Yeah, and I'll certainly look into that and try to get things out to you as soon as I can. And Suzette or anybody, if you'd like to meet anytime after this, actually got time today, but if you want to meet at some point in time, I certainly want to be forthcoming with any information and share it. So any hesitation is not because of desire to share it.
Yes, I think we put a lot into this first meeting on this, and some of those answers may have to come forward in sort of more technical high level meetings later.
Yeah, I certainly hope this isn't the last. I hope we have multiple conversations. I hope this is just the start of it.
Right. I mean, there's other parts to your application to come yet, and then I suppose we can ask you to share some of that information later too.
Yeah,
In
and
a,
if
in
people want to
publicly,
kind of go ahead.
yeah, we have these public meetings, and then I assume you'll have your one-on-one meetings with people too. From Allison Kaiser, again, she's kind of summing up what she's heard, I think. She says, it seems like CPS is being asked to make up or sacrifice for the losses that JobPoint has suffered from the federal government, and to cover more bases and the needs for society because federal supports have been gutted. Is that a summary of what we're hearing, or do you have more to say to that question?
I mean, I would say that's one way of looking at it. I mean, I believe that we are providing a service to the community, and we believe that service needs to continue, whether JobPoint provides it or someone else provides it. I don't think we would be doing what we're doing for over 20 years if there wasn't a need. We certainly evaluate our programs to see if they're effective. And so in terms of how the community decides to use their dollars, that's going to be their decision. You know, right now we've decided as a community that we give our education dollars to Columbia Public Schools, and that's how our students get to their education path. The state of Missouri passed a law, and so the public charter school becomes an option for our community. Um, I didn't necessarily campaign for anything, but I do know that right now those are the options. And then again, you know, what is the solution the community would want to? Maybe we could proceed in that direction, but if it's not going on, then what will happen with the youth and what will happen with those students?
I will remind everybody that it was in the spring session last year that the enabling legislation was passed to include Boone County in the charter in the state's charter school system. So this is all pretty new. You have one in the Al Tacker or Mary Jo, whoever, has a question in the chat, but I'll let them voice it if they will.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. As a charter school, what are your obligations in providing the non-vocational academic services and also ancillary services, and how will you handle that?
Well, the academic portion of it is the Mo options piece that we've been using for quite some time, which is allows people to get that high school equivalency. And so that helps people get through things at a different rate.
Okay. I think we're running over time, but our guest has agreed to stay a bit longer. From April Farrar, a school board member, I understand that there were some youth build charters in St. Louis area previously, but that they closed. Do you know why they closed, and would you do things differently to avoid meeting the same fate?
Yeah, I know that there were, I think, 2 in St. Louis that did not do so well. I certainly don't know for sure why they did that. You know, every youth build kind of operates under the same framework, but then how that organization runs things that varies. So all I can point to is the JobPoint program or the youth build program that JobPoint's led. You know, we're a premier program. We're certainly, I believe, by far the best in the state. But we have national recognition within the youth build community. Jarrell Morton, our director of youth build services, serves on higher committees. We take our youth to Washington, D.C. for trips, and they meet with their legislators. We do lots of outreach and leadership training. So I think there's good enough reason to assume we're significantly different. I'm from Columbia. My plan is to retire from Job Point. I plan to be here for the next 10 to 15 years. And so how Job Point operates and how we serve people will continue to do. We have a lot of longevity in our building. Jarrell Morton, who's in charge of the youth build program, has been here for 14 years. Our executive vice president's been here 35 years. We have people with 27. I mean, there's a lot of consistency within the Job Point building. So I think there is very good reason to believe we would have very different outcomes than what you see in St. Louis. And think we see that in lots of our school system and models.
I think I'll let our Zoom host Dave Taylor be the last question today, and apologies to all of you who have left questions on the table. As I said, this is going to continue, and you may or may not want to respond to this. You represented Job Point really well here today, but his question is about charter schools in general. He says perhaps it's my naive concern is about charter schools in general. Are there concerns that this particular charter school is created and funded, and that it will open the door to more charter schools in the future, and that these will be of schools that have more parochial interests, or that will further weaken the funding overall in public schools? Any thoughts on that? I think he wants to convey that concern.
And I certainly didn't move into this role thinking, oh boy, I can't wait to do this. I think the doors were open when the law was changed, and whether you like it or not, it is what it is. I think there's a lot to be said about a local company starting a local idea. I think that there will eventually probably be programs maybe more like the magnet school idea, in terms of focusing on the youth that we serve, and the challenges that they're coping with. I don't think the community could have anybody better than Job Point. I would assume some of the charter schools in St. Louis and Kansas City certainly are looking at things. And so, I have no control over anyone else, and I don't know what the path is for them. But I do know that we have a number of students, a number of youth in this community. If they don't get engaged with education and employment, they're going to find themselves wandering without things to do. And so we just hope to be a part of the solution.
Well, I want to thank you, John Scalise, representing Job Point today, and this proposal for a charter school here in Boone County. And it's been very, very informative, so much for my head is still spinning with all these questions and the different directions they go, and also with your programs about which I knew only a little, and now I need to do some work on the jobs on the websites. I think we will put some websites along with your video of this meeting, some websites about the State Charter School Commission and that sort of thing, so that people can get more familiar with this new area for Boone County. And all I can say at this point is thank you all for being here today.
And thank you so much for letting me come. Hopefully we can do this again or multiple times. I think the more times we talk, the better. My email is johns@jobpoint.org, johns@jobpoint.org. Feel free to reach out to me. We have quite a bit going on at Job Point, so if there's any delay, I'm sorry about that, but I certainly will try to engage and do whatever I can to talk to folks about this. And thanks again for the opportunity.
And that email has gone right into our chat. If anybody wants to look for it there, we'll have a short bit of announcements and maybe a few items of business now. And everyone's welcome to stick around or leave as they see fit. Thank you very much. Okay, it looks like Pam